I was born and raised and lived almost all my life in a mostly unfree country. I've been told and taught many questionable things that I'm unlearning just now in my early 40s. And I've been wondering, can those lessons, those restricting pieces of mindset from my Soviet and ex-Soviet legacy really apply to basically everyone in the world? And how deep the outdated, self-depreciating and limiting beliefs are sitting in us? Let's discuss together what makes us unfree. The first limiting beliefs that I'm going to chat about with you today, I think are present all over the world, while I'm not so sure about the fourth one. Watch the video till the end and let me know what you think in the comments. But before we begin, let me ask you whether you ever heard about the baby elephant metaphor. When circus elephants are young, people tie a rope to their back leg and wrap it around a heavy stake in the ground. As the baby elephant tugs and pulls, it fails to break the stake or break the rope. In time, it learns to be constrained, to not even try. But eventually, the elephant becomes a big adult elephant that could easily walk away if it wanted to. But believing the stake or a fence to be some immovable thing, the adult elephant remains tied to it, falsely believing it can never get away. It has been conditioned not to use its power and strength. We all can have this metaphorical rope around our leg, many of such ropes that basically are our limiting beliefs. In a nutshell, limiting beliefs are thoughts, convictions, or opinions that we believe to be absolute truths that hold us back in some shape or form. As a result, they prevent us from growing, achieving our goals, taking risks or new opportunities, or becoming the people we want to be. Limiting beliefs usually stem from our upbringing, our family traditions, education, and overall social environment, and life experiences, of course. We cling onto our limiting beliefs, thinking that they will protect us, soothe us, and guide us through life. But the thing is that life is far more complicated than a set of preconditioned mindsets. It's always hard to change. Labels and restrictions give us the comfort of narrowed predictability, but wearing horse blinders is no fun. Limiting belief number 1. You should always keep in mind what other people would say or think about you. This is how your social success and reputation work. This belief has been with me since I was born, I guess, and as a little disclaimer, yes, we are social creatures and we do depend on our environment, but not all opinions matter. Really. We cannot be liked or approved by everyone, and since this "what would people say" mindset is implanted so deeply in our minds, we get so anxious and stressed when we don't get the much needed approval or likes. So hence is our obsession with self-representation on social media, about telling about our wonderful life and not really sharing our challenging moments, because this is not an approvable thing, basically. People pleasers play safe and pay the price for that. I know this very well because I'm a recovering people pleaser myself. And let me tell you one story. I was in my mid-20s, I lived in Moscow, and I just got divorced. And I came back to my hometown in Siberia just to spend some time with my parents. And one day I went outside the apartment building to sit on the bench just to breathe some air. And one of our neighbors, her name was Yevdokia, came down just to sit with me and chat. She was older than my mother, and I perceived her as kind of a neighborhood granny, some sort of that. She knew that I had recently divorced, and she just came to say how happy she was for me. She said, "Never be with someone who doesn't make you happy. Never be afraid to be a single woman. I've always been afraid of public judgment and stayed with a husband who I hated until he passed away. I've wasted so many years. She was a hardcore product of Soviet system where having an official spouse and children was a must, otherwise you were perceived as socially unreliable. I would love to believe that the situation has changed since then, but I can't say that really, and neither can I say that the fear of public judgment has disappeared completely. I think in some ways it has become even worse now than then. People are always ready to judge. That's the sad truth. But do you really have to accept their judgment? Everyone decides for themselves. Don't waste your time with explanations. People only hear what they want to hear. Limiting belief number 2. You have to work hard all the time to have a decent life. And if you don't, it's just because you don't work hard enough. From this utterly harmful belief stems one more that is particularly inherent to my culture. It's that wealthy people equal dishonest people. That one cannot live well off, one cannot be well off without sacrificing some very important human values. And I don't like class wars. I don't welcome any divisions between people, be them based on color, passport, wealth, or marital status, or anything else. It doesn't matter. And now more than ever, when I feel a complicated feeling towards some human that I don't really know, I always ask myself who benefits from my complicated feeling, which by the way can range from envy to mistrust. Luck, background, charisma, any type of privilege matter just as much as hard work. But the discussions of this kind are not welcomed because they feed negative attitudes. Maybe I'm an idealist, but I still believe that we humans have gone such a long way that we deserve to have some joy, not to work our heads off all the time. Who does really benefit from you working hard all the time without any joy, without any free time for your family, for your hobbies, for anything but work and money? And it's definitely not you. You do not benefit from this. And yes, I do work hard, and I'm always very anxious when I see that my goals, that the life that I want to have is still too far away, that I have to worry about some basic bills, about paying them. But what do I do to keep this limiting belief away, to get rid of it? I give myself more space and time, and I give myself more rest. I take my time to recover whenever I see the first glimpses of burnout, and I think it is utterly important. I can spend the whole morning doing nothing, and I'm still learning how not to punish myself for that. We all are so different. And in so many situations, this limiting belief about working hard to succeed can kill the very first delicate sprouts of new beginnings because we blame ourselves for not succeeding. Limiting belief number 3. You should know people who know people. Networking is a must for everyone willing to be someone. My father used to tell my brother and me one mantra all the time. Never burn the bridges down, keep your connections alive. You never know when you might need them. My father lived a very amazing, challenging, and bizarre life, and I tried to follow his advice, but I always failed, and now it's time for me to declutter this limiting belief entirely. I want to be free from networking, from nepotism, even at the expense of my own comfort and success. All people are different, but the social system shapes us into those very easily predictable and same valued elements of the same system. And I don't want to be like that. Is it egotistical? Maybe. I'm given one life that I'm living, and I want to own my life. I want to own my connections. I want to own my choices. I strongly believe that nepotism feeds inequality and alienates people with social anxiety. And I'm one of such people, and I've been struggling with it for all my life. And that's why now I'm making this very solid, very personal, and thought through choice. Those were three limiting beliefs that were ever present in my Soviet and ex-Soviet reality, but I believe that they are very common for all people all over the world. Before making this video, when I was still researching the topic and thinking about what I'm gonna talk about, I asked my husband Brian, who was born and grew up in the US, which is a completely opposite culture from my own. So I asked him what he thought about those four beliefs that I was going to talk about. And he found a lot of things in common with the first three that I've already mentioned, although he said that the fourth belief that I'm going to disclose right now, it's inherent to a very particular type of culture or certain types of cultures. So it's not like a worldwide thing. And I'm super interested to know what you think and whether it's something that is quite familiar to you. Limiting belief number 4. You can't stand against the majority. Sit down and don't stick your neck out. This is a very sad legacy of many cultures, certain cultures, including totalitarian ones, including my own culture. I've been always taught to mix and mingle, just not to have too controversial opinions, to be a good student, a decent citizen, a smiling and joyful woman. In my case, I think I was fortunate enough to have my neck stuck out for a good deal of time, mostly thanks to my background and my quite not mixable father. But I always believed that my voice cannot change anything. I've been writing texts and thoughts without really showing them to anyone. I've been creating things without letting the world know that I existed. I thought it was about being humble and accepting the reality of the majority. And now I'm unlearning this. And it's not about actually like overly exposing yourself to the world. It's about letting your inner voice speak freely and believing that if the inner cause that you are bearing inside is right and truthful, it can be really heard by everyone else and it can actually change something. And again, I might be an idealist and it's very scary. It's always super scary to allow yourself not to follow the majority. But what are we losing? What are we losing by just being who we really are? The only tyrant I accept in this world is the still small voice within me. And even though I have to face the prospect of being a minority of one, I humbly believe I have the courage to be in such a hopeless minority. These 4 limiting beliefs are just a few that I wanted to chat about today, and maybe later on together we can work through many of them by sharing our experiences, thoughts, and intentions. Thank you so much for watching and for being here, dear friends, and thank you everyone who supports me on Patreon and other tipping platforms. It is thanks to you that I'm able to produce videos on both of my channels so that you all can watch them. And as always, be safe and keep your heart open, and I hope to see you soon. Пока-пока.